There's a top NFL draft prospect that just sounded off on the Chicago Bears. And in case you haven't noticed, the Bears are doing their due diligence during this NFL scouting combine, really getting a good look at players to help overhaul this roster. And let's talk running back and let's talk about North Carolina's Omarion Hampton. Head coach Ben Johnson, you guys know he thrives on building just an electrifying running back duo within his offense. With the Detroit Lions, we had a duo, right? It's a sore spot that we let David Montgomery go. But anyways, Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely fantastic. And kind of looking at what it would take for head coach Ben Johnson to replicate that in Chicago. We already have DeAndre Swift doing our homework on all the top running backs at the combine. And we just interviewed Omarion Hampton. And based on what the Bears have returning the field in 2025, we need a complement in this rushing attack because I don't think what we have is going to be it. I think we're probably going to keep Swift because contractually it makes sense. But the goal would likely be for Chicago to land Hampton with either of our second round picks. Thank you once again, Carolina Panthers. That trade just keeps on giving. But Hampton's stock has kind of been all over the place, but now it's kind of rounding out. And I think it's going to become really clear as we get further into this draft process and further into the combine. So I'm going to go to this story, kind of highlighting a North Carolina link that the Bears have with him. And he's been one of the players who have met with the Bears so far. And he said it was absolutely amazing to meet with them. Really high marks, really sounded off in a positive way. What he had to say was, yeah, we met a few times during the meetings. It was really, really good just to meet all of these guys, to build these connections. And he was especially impressed with head coach Ben Johnson. He also mentioned that he's met with the Bears a few times in the past as well, and that the interactions were always fantastic. And if you kind of look at the broad view of all this, kind of looking at other prospects, who's the number one prospect in this draft? It's Ashton Jeanty, right? He's expected to go early in the first round. And if the Bears really want to address the trenches there, I think they're going to pass on him at number 10 overall. But it makes sense for the Bears to at least do their due diligence, and they've just met with Ashton Jeanty as well. So I think in the end, this is going to come down to the best fit, where these backs go at the end. And Boise State's Ashton Jeanty and Hampton out of North Carolina, they've both confirmed that they've met with the Bears at the NFL Combine. So Jeanty's been linked to the Bears for quite a while at 10th overall. It really divides this franchise, this fan base, because some see the success that Ben Johnson had with Gibbs in Detroit and project something similar for the Boise State back, right? And while others are steadfast, I'm one of them, that Chicago needs to take either an offensive or defensive lineman with their first pick. And our needs are really going to be dictated by what we do in free agency, right? It'd be really nice to address some of these problems with all the 80 mil plus that we have in free agency. So then when we get to the draft with number 10 overall, we can just take the best player. And there is a world that Ashton Jeanty is that player. But I want to highlight Hampton. We're looking at Omarion Hampton being one of the best players in college football. He ran for over 3,100 yards in his last 2 seasons with the Tar Heels. He also added 33 total touchdowns. We're looking at a powerful back. The guy can finish runs, but he's also showed that he's capable of breaking off big plays. He can be that home run threat that we would love to see in this offense. Really good hands, solid in pass protection. And that is vitally important. That's what head coach Ben Johnson absolutely doesn't ask for. He insists on guys that do the dirty work, guys that will pass block and do it really, really well. Something most rookies struggle with, but the book on Hampton is that he does it with excellence. And if we look at someone besides me, NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah, he has Jeanty obviously as the number 1 running back, the number 3 ranked prospect, but Hampton is at number 19. In Pro Football Focus, they have the 2 running backs as the top 2 in this draft class. And it shouldn't be a surprise, right? It shouldn't be a surprise that the Bears are interested in looking for another running back and have spoke to both of these guys. We can do a quick comparison. Numbers wise, there will be no comparison, but we're looking at Genty running for 2,600 yards, 29 touchdowns on 374 carries. Man, caught 23 passes for 138 yards and a touchdown last season. That is absolutely insane. 2,600 yards running and 374 carries and 23 passes, 29 touchdowns. That's absolutely unbelievable. If we choose not to go in that direction, Hampton, he's a pretty nice consolation prize. We're looking for Hampton finishing with 281 attempts, 1,660 yards, 15 touchdowns, still excellent, 38 receptions for 373 yards and 2 scores in the passing game. And this is something that the Bears need on this team. We failed to produce consistent or productive results behind a constantly changing offensive line and with DeAndre Swift as our lead back. Kind of looking at why we need help so much. Let's look at Swift's first season in Chicago. And once again, a lot of this can be contributed to the offensive line, but it gets to a certain point that your numbers are who you are. So he finished with 253 attempts on 959 yards, 6 touchdowns, 42 receptions, very nice, for 386 yards as a pass catcher as well. But he finished with the worst rush yards over expected at minus 174, and that's among all running backs in the NFL with at least 90 attempts. So what does this tell you? Swift needs to improve, right? But it would also help once the Bears address their offensive line with much needed upgrades and then add a rookie running back with some pop. Could very well help Swift become more efficient and be the guy that we thought we were getting when we signed him in free agency. And Johnson did say that he was going to rip this offense down to the studs, build it back up to the strengths of his players, and drafting another running back would really aid in that. And there's also a North Carolina connection. Obviously, Hampton's from North Carolina, but Ben Johnson back in the day, he was a walk-on quarterback prospect for them. He kind of held it down as the number 3 quarterback on that team. He had a little bit of time there. They obviously weren't there at the same time, but there is a little connection, and every little connection works. At the very least, it helped them have a more robust conversation together. So if we're looking at the Bears draft capital coming into this draft, man, it is impressive. We've got 4 picks in the top 75 of this draft, multiple avenues that we can pursue to add to this running back group. I would not like to see free agent money paid for a running back. This is such a deep and talented running back class this year. I would love for the Bears to use a pick. It's just a matter of thinking, is Omarion Hampton worth that second round pick? I think he absolutely might be. I've been watching some film, and the guy runs with power. The guy hits the second level with speed. He has that home run hitting threat, but he can also run between the tackles, really good hands, and also he can pass protect. So that's why, as one of the best pass protectors in this whole draft at running back, the guy is pro ready. I think that might greatly influence if that's a guy that Ben Johnson takes. So you guys let me know. I think Hampton's draft stock might really rise once he does all of his workouts at the combine. We'll see where he lies, but I wouldn't mind seeing him in orange and navy. What about you guys? Bear down. Let's continue to move through this offseason together. I'll be here with Bears news on the daily. See ya.